Hello, everyone out there in the multiverse. I am Dan.
And I'm Drea, and we own Multiverse Comics in Culpeper, Virginia. And today we have props.
Yes, we do. And because we are talking about the mini host of Venom.
Yes, and the reason we have that on our brain is because Absolute Carnage just came out, and this is a mini-series by Marvel?
Yeah, it's a mini-series.
Okay.
It's the big event that Marvel's currently doing.
Okay. And without giving any spoilers, obviously you enjoying reading it?
Oh, yes, very much.
So one thing, I have not read it, honestly, but one thing that you told me is that Venom appears a lot, is a main character?
Yes,
equal to
because
Carnage?
Carnage is essentially his arch enemy. So
Okay, that makes sense.
So if there's a big story with Carnage, Venom will more than likely be there.
Fair enough. Now, from a literary standpoint, one thing that I know about Carnage and Venom is that in order to understand Carnage, you have to understand Venom. There's a literary term called a foil, and that's not a math term, it's a character foil. And the idea is that when you have characters that are created to offset the characteristics of another character, so that those characteristics are highlighted. Carnage and Venom are not pure foils, but they're similar enough because, let's see, Venom is Carnage's dad, basically.
Yes.
And they have the same origin, they have the same...
to be specific, the symbiote's dad.
Symbiote's dad,
Yeah.
okay, fair enough.
Yeah.
So
Eddie Brock and Cletus Cassidy, not related.
Fair enough. Okay. So you have the idea of Venom and Carnage coming from the same genetic stock, for lack of a better term. And so you have those similarities, but then where they differ is what makes the difference between the two characters. And without understanding Venom and without that ability to understand where Carnage is coming from, for lack of a better term, Carnage just seems very one-dimensional and basically just evil. So seeing what Carnage could be and what he has become because of his experiences with being what he is, and seeing Venom's experiences with what he is, kind of gives some dimension to a character that could otherwise be just pure flat evil. I'm not a fan of Carnage, honestly. Not as a character. I think it's a very well done, very well created character, very interesting character. He just scares the bejesus out of me, and I don't like reading him. So
As he should.
As he should. I mean, he's created to be scary. Like all he needs to do is like the clown in the sewer is afraid of him, right? So that's just not go there. So we are going to be talking about Venom specifically. Again, if you understand Venom, you have a better idea of understanding Carnage. And so we have props. These are hero clicks, which would make Scott Porter very proud. And so since Dan knows the history a lot better than I do, I know a little bit, but I cannot list them for you. He's just kind of spouting them off. So I want you to please start with, first and foremost, who was the first host of Venom?
The first host that we see is Spider-Man, right there.
Yep.
Spider-Man and a bunch of other heroes of Earth were whisked away to Battleworld, which was made up of a whole bunch of different other worlds, and they were meant to all go to war with each other in Marvel Superheroes Secret War.
Yeah, just read
It was
the
the 80s.
Just
So
read the Wikipedia synopsis. You do not need to read the original series. Trust me.
yeah. Around the middle, halfway through the series, this big battle, Spider-Man's costume got tore up, as did others. Thor used some kind of machine to repair his costume, get a whole brand new look, really. Spider-Man wanted to do the same thing, but he chose the wrong machine.
Wah wah.
Yep, Peter. Only him.
Yay, Peter.
Yeah, and he actually chose a machine that was actually a prison for the symbiote. And he released it, and it started to bond with him.
Okay. Now, so this is not just a costume. This is something that actually bonds. This is where we get the idea that it's a symbiote. And so the symbiote does not stay with Peter Parker, but correct me if I'm wrong, but the symbiote actually takes on elements of the host even when they leave the host, correct?
Yes, very much.
And Venom does this, and Carnage is kind of built the same way?
To an extent.
Okay.
Carnage has had other hosts, but for the most part, it's been Cletus Cassidy since its birth.
Gotcha.
So it's more gleamed towards Cletus Cassidy than anyone else.
Right. Okay, so Peter Parker has the symbiote. He gets back to Earth, and what happens?
Yeah, he kept it for about a year, realized it was not really making him do a lot of bad stuff, but enhancing his negative emotions.
Okay.
So he was more violent, he was, more bitter, and he was tired all the time because the suit actually went out at night while he slept. You know, still bonded to him and
So it's
basically taking Peter's body on a joyride every night.
Draining his energy. That's creepy. So
Yeah.
it's draining his energy and also enhancing his negative feelings, which with someone like Peter would really drag him down. Peter is a very emotionally driven character,
Yes.
and so having negative emotions, even if they're not necessarily all you, is still going to negatively impact him to a really big degree. Okay,
Yeah.
so he's feeling down. So what does he do?
He goes to Reed Richards to find out what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
He determines that the costume is not a costume, it's a living being, and Reed helps Peter get rid of it by using a sonic cannon.
Okay.
Noise and fire are basically the weaknesses of the symbiote.
Okay, so noise and fire.
yeah,
that makes sense. It disrupts the bond.
Yes, exactly. And so yeah, it stays the prisoner of the Baxter building for a while.
Which is, it's tough because yes, this was something that was acting as a parasite basically to Peter. It was, I'm not saying it would have ultimately killed him, but it could have led to his death. Is that wrong to say?
Quite possibly.
So you have this thing that is a parasite, and normally I think of someone like Reed Richards. He isn't necessarily, I'm not saying he's a bad guy, but he's more science than heart. So I don't love that he was put in prison. I don't love that they contained it, but at the same time, what else would you have done? So all right. But so at this point, Venom is not Venom yet, right?
No.
He doesn't have a name, but he has retained some of Peter's essence.
Yes, his abilities.
Okay.
He, when he does bond again, the whole sticking to walls, a little bit stronger because of Peter's strength.
Okay. So not only emotions, but abilities.
Yes,
Okay.
abilities as well.
Okay, cool.
Probably a little bit of Peter's self-righteousness is in there.
Gotcha.
And
Snark?
yeah, I've never known the symbiote to be snarky, but
Fair enough.
a little bit maybe. Yeah,
Okay.
It's probably in there a little bit.
But that also explains why most of the Venom variations that we have here all look very close to Spider-Man, because that's his first introduction, I guess.
Yes.
Okay, fair enough.
Fair
So who's after Peter?
That would be Eddie Brock.
Okay.
The symbiote escapes from the Baxter building and tries to rebond with Peter.
Of course.
There's a struggle in a bell tower where Peter's using the noise from the bell to weaken the bond and get the symbiote off him.
Doesn't mean Sam Raimi should have done it, but anyway, continue.
And at this point, Eddie Brock, who has his own grudge against Spider-Man because of disgracing him, proving a story that he did. He was a reporter, so
Right.
Proving that a story that he did was false,
Right.
and therefore he lost his job. And he was thinking about committing suicide, praying about it at that same church.
Now that's actually a really interesting character introduction, because especially with the Catholic religion, committing suicide means that you are not going to get into heaven. Period. Like that's a big deal. And so for him, he's basically saying, I am so upset, I am so torn about this that I'm willing to give up eternity in heaven. That's huge. Wow. That's that's the moment when the symbiote bonds with him.
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah.
Good thing I'm an English teacher. So that's when he bonds with him at that moment. Wow, that's very intense. All right.
And both of them bond over their hatred of Spider-Man
Of course, yeah.
and become Venom.
So that's where he gets the name. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And Venom is especially dangerous because of the bonding with Spider-Man.
Right.
He can get past Spider-Man's spider sense.
Gotcha. Now, is he able to communicate to Eddie who Spider-Man is? Does he know
Yes. Yes.
So yeah, triple threat.
Yeah, exactly, because he knows everything that Peter knew.
He has the same powers. He knows who he is, and he can thwart his Spidey sense. That's seriously dangerous.
Yes.
Okay. So he's with Eddie Brock. He becomes Venom, a very, very intensely dangerous villain to Spider-Man with an intense hatred, so much he's willing to give up eternity. Wow. Then what? Then what happens?
Well, Like I said, Eddie hates Spider-Man,
Yeah.
but he also has somewhat of respect for innocence. Like
Fair enough.
he does have a want to protect those that are innocent also,
Okay.
which makes him, if he didn't hate Spider-Man and didn't try to kill Spider-Man,
Right.
he would be, you know, dangerous still, but more to evil people, you know? Because basically he sees Spider-Man as a bad guy.
Okay.
That's kind of what it is.
Yeah. So he's the hero of his own story,
Yeah,
as any
he's-
good villain is.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
And so he sees Spider-Man as this evil that needs to be eradicated.
Is it weird for me to compare Venom with Eddie Brock to Mr. Freeze? Because he's got that idea of the only reason he's evil is because of the hurt that he experienced.
There is a little bit of that.
Okay.
I wouldn't really relate the two because Freeze does what he does over love for another, whereas Eddie,
Does it out of hate.
yes, and love for himself more. You
Fair
know,
enough.
not for another.
Okay, fair
you
enough.
know.
So after Eddie, who gets him?
After Eddie, we have Mac Gargan, who is a longtime Spider-Man foe as the Scorpion.
Okay. Now, wasn't there somebody between Eddie and Mac?
Yes, there is.
Who's
but
that guy?
That guy is pretty much just the transition to get to Mac.
Okay.
Yes. Basically, Brock wanted to get rid of the symbiote and auctioned it off. This mob boss's son bought it,
Okay.
became Venom for like an arc,
Okay.
and then it went to Gargan.
And what was his character's name?
His was Angelino Fortunato.
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 Okay, so Fortunato, there's a literary character named Fortunato in The Cask of Amontillado by Edgar Allan Poe. And this particular character was, ended up to be, well, read the story, it's awesome. But his name was supposed to be a joke because even though it sounds like fortune or fortunate, things ended up very, very badly for him because it's a Poe story. So was there any literary commonality there?
No,
You-
no.
Not at all.
No.
He just happened to be Fortunato.
Yeah, it's an Italian.
Well, that's disappointing. All right, so on to Mac Gargan. Continue.
Now, Mac Gargan,
Gargan, sorry.
since the early days of Spider-Man, has been beaten up by Spider-Man, like constantly.
Okay.
And he's tired of Spider-Man's jokes. He's tired of being this B-level villain, and he wants to step up his game and be an A-level villain as Venom. And he becomes probably the most sadistic version of Venom that there was.
So once again, fueled by hate, and Venom is again we're going back to the idea that Venom is taking in all of this, and because he is still his own entity, he is being created into all of this. I mean, like these are his formative years basically. So this is his infancy, his toddlerhood, his childhood, and his teenage years that he's becoming a product of his environment, and his environment apparently is people who hate Spider-Man.
Yeah.
Okay.
Pretty much, yeah.
Poor Venom. All right, continue.
And so Gargan, he's at some point forced to be a member of the Thunderbolts when
Okay.
it was the government-controlled organization, and
Which always works out so well.
kind of directed by Norman Osborn for some reason. I don't get it because he's a criminal himself and he's like incarcerated.
Lex Luthor
But
became president. Let's not question comics. Continue.
I get that later, but this particular run, he's still a convicted criminal, and he didn't do anything to overturn that, and it's weird for me.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah, right after that, he ends up saving the world, so him being put in charge of something likened to S.H.I.E.L.D. after that.
Would it make
Hammer,
sense?
No, he is.
Oh,
after
he is,
that,
okay.
Yeah.
So it
that
did make
makes
sense, right.
But before that, it just didn't make sense to me. It still doesn't. I don't understand it, but whatever.
Suspend your disbelief, ladies
yeah.
and gentlemen.
Norman Osborn does become leader of Hammer
Okay.
to replace S.H.I.E.L.D., and Gargan becomes one of his Dark Avengers. He becomes the team's version of Spider-Man.
All right.
You know, there's Dakin, which is the son of Wolverine, to be the Wolverine. You know,
Let's not get too far afield.
Yeah,
I know
yeah.
your knowledge of Spider-Man is vast and
Yeah,
intense
exactly.
and amazing, and I love hearing you. But let's focus in on Venom.
so yes, Gargan gets to play hero while secretly kill people. Yes.
Every villain's dream.
Yeah, exactly. You know? And, you know, as they do, Norman and Osborn ruined it all by doing some villainous thing.
I am
Yeah.
shocked.
The government ended up taking the symbiotes.
Okay.
And that's where we bring in Agent Venom.
Okay.
Yeah. Agent Venom is Eugene Flash Thompson.
Oh, okay. The kid from the high school that bullied Peter.
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
Yes. He joined the army, ended up losing his legs.
Oh.
But because of that, he went into the program to get the symbiote, which would allow him to walk, because it would kind of reform his legs while it's bonded.
So this was almost like another super soldier
Yes.
serum situation. Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, like my alliteration there?
Yeah.
Okay, continue.
And Flash, the conditions of the program was they was only supposed to wear the suit for no longer than 24 hours.
Okay.
And then
sense.
it would go away and it, get it back on another mission.
Gotcha.
At some point, he got away from the government and kept the suit. Started hanging out with the Guardians of the Galaxy in space.
As one does.
Yeah. Found the planet of the symbiotes, Clintar.
Okay, so now this story is where we get Venom's origin.
Yeah, a little bit.
Okay.
A little bit of the origin to the symbiote, where it came from, what's the actual purpose of the symbiotes.
Pause before we jump into that. Let me ask about the character traits that he's getting from Eddie Brock. Obviously, from Gargan, he's getting all kinds of nastiness. But from, not Eddie Brock, I'm sorry, we're at Flash. Flash Thompson. Is he just becoming a bully at this point, or is there anything redeeming about Flash? I mean, he did become a soldier. That's redemptive.
See, here's the thing about Flash.
Yeah.
He was a bully
Okay.
in high school.
Right.
But he also idolized Spider-Man.
True.
He wanted to do what's right, and that's why he actually joined the military.
Oh, okay.
Because he wanted to be a hero. So
Gotcha.
he has a lot of good qualities
Okay.
to him.
Good.
And the symbiote is picking up these qualities.
Okay.
Because he wants nothing more than to be a hero,
Gotcha.
like his idol.
So we have some redemption. We get to the island. We get to the planet. We realize that there is an origin story here, and so let's not get too far afield into the origin story. Again, your knowledge of Spider-Man and all things related is
we
vast.
actually do have to get in there.
We have to get into
yeah,
okay.
a little bit, because
By all means, get into it.
because it's at that point that we find out that the symbiotes are actually supposed to be cosmic protectors.
Oh,
They're not supposed to be, these villain, evil things that we have always thought them to be.
right.
They are actually supposed to be cosmic protectors.
Like the Green Lantern Corps?
I guess, in a way.
I'm sorry for all the DC references. That's what I reference. I'm sorry. I'm the Batman. Go ahead.
Yeah, I guess in a way it's kind
Okay.
of similar to that, except it's not militaristic or anything like that.
And they're meant to
necessarily.
bond with someone in order to become. Like, they can't exist on their own?
They kind of can, but they need a host to survive.
I guess that makes sense, because if you're going to be a cosmic protector of a particular place, you want to look like that thing from the place. You don't want to look like other.
Yeah.
Is that why? Okay, that makes sense.
And
I'll allow it.
and so the Venom symbiote was corrupted along the way
Okay.
before it even got to Spider-Man somehow.
Gotcha.
We do get a little bit of flashes of that
Okay.
during this story, but I'm not going into that. The point is that during these stories, somehow the symbiote got purified.
Oh, okay.
Like it remembers all it remembered, but it's not so much filled with hate as much anymore.
So his personality is basically tabula rasa?
Kinda. I mean,
Okay.
not completely, because it does retain, like I said, it retains the memories, and
But
so
not
therefore,
the emotions.
not the emotions as affected. I think it would still remember its emotions and stuff.
So it's more like purified motive rather than instinct.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
That would be a better way to put it.
And what about the abilities? Does he lose
No,
the
it
abilities?
still has all of his abilities.
Okay.
Everything he's retained from the various hosts.
So it's basically puberty. It's when you get back in control of all the craziness that's been happening in your body.
There you
You
go.
remember everything,
There you
but
go.
now you're in
That-
control of it.
That fits. That works.
Puberty.
There you
All
go.
right, there we go.
All right. In the next Venom series, after Flash's series ends, we don't learn what happened to Flash. The symbiote's by itself,
Aw.
looking for a host,
Yeah.
and it finds someone else, Lee Price, who it bonds with because it needs to. It's a simple
Yeah, I gotcha,
need
yeah.
to. But he also sees it as the guy's a soldier, so he thinks it's the guy's very much like Flash.
Right, that makes sense.
But he's a hitman.
Ugh.
So no, he's not very much like Flash.
No.
This guy lasts a little longer than the other guy that was a transition guy.
Okay, but he's a transition
He's
guy.
essentially a transition guy to,
Gotcha.
undo some of the purifying that went on, I
Of
guess.
course. Because every hero needs a flaw.
Which would bring him back to Venom. To
So
Eddie
Eddie
Brock.
Brock, okay.
Eddie Brock, yes.
And has Eddie Brock gone through any character changes at this point, or is it basically him going back to zero?
Yeah, he's gone through a bunch of stuff.
Okay.
He's bonded with some other symbiotes. He was Anti-Venom for a while, which isn't
Right.
exactly a symbiote. It's a little confusing,
Fair
so I'm
enough.
not going into it.
Nope.
But he did bond with Carnage's son at some point, which is Toxin,
Okay.
which isn't evil like Carnage necessarily. Like
Interesting.
his first host was a cop.
Okay.
So he's a little bit better. I mean, still, I don't know, still has some of that heritage in him, but
Right.
you know,
I mean,
he's
yeah.
a little bit better.
Gotcha.
And at this point, Eddie was actually working with the FBI, I believe.
Okay.
FBI. And him and Spider-Man were working together to lure the symbiote off of Lee Price, tricking
Right.
him to offering Spider-Man as a host again. And
Oh, that breaks my heart. Okay, continue.
instead, Eddie took the symbiote and left,
Yeah.
because he wanted his symbiote back.
And yeah, all right, continue.
Yeah, and that brings us kind of up to where we are.
Right. And now is he still with Eddie?
Yeah, he's still with Eddie.
Okay. I really want him to be with Flash. Like that seemed like to be such a perfect symbiosis.
Yeah, sorry, hon. Flash is dead now. He didn't die when the symbiote left him, but there was a story arc where like Flash became Anti-Venom.
Stop talking about it. I don't want.
And,
I don't know. I don't want to know.
Died. I'm sorry, but yeah, Flash is dead. Sorry, I'm sorry. You
I'm
had
not
to
gonna.
find out this way.
I'm not gonna cry on camera. So let's just finish this video.
Okay. All right. So yes, we're currently back up to where Eddie is the host, and Eddie's the star of the Venom book. Eddie's the one that's fighting Carnage in. You okay?
I'm fine. Just keep talking. Talk to the people.
In Absolute Carnage.
Okay, that's where we are. I hate everything now.
I love you.
I love you too. All right, so that's where we are, and again, so who's Carnage bonded with at this point? I don't want to get
Titus
too far.
Cassidy, although
Okay.
he is not actually having his Carnage symbiote. It's the Grendel symbiote, which was
Grendel-
It's a whole thing.
Grendel as in Beowulf, Grendel?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that they
Nice.
kind of rewrote.
And we're bringing it back to
history.
literary terms.
They rewrote history, and Grendel was essentially a symbiote or something.
That actually totally makes sense.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
I'll allow it.
Yeah, because
So, Absolute Carnage is a great miniseries, according to my husband, who knows everything and is amazing. And I'm not going to read it because I'm angry and I'm going to cry now. But hopefully, us walking you guys through Venom and his many hosts and the way that he has taken on the characteristics, hopefully knowing Venom will also help you know Carnage and understand the story a little bit better. So launching in, you can start with the miniseries without the extremely vast backstory. Although by all means, go there too, because Spider-Man stories are great. Spider-Man is the first comic to actually make me cry, like legitimately cry, in my friend Jonathan's comic book store. So that has happened, and it was beautiful and touching, and I'm going to go cry again because Flash is dead and I'm sad. So, with that said, we will see you in the multiverse.